Hi guys, my name is Rick. The story I want to share with you started when I was 18. I won $1 million in the lottery. But what happened next was even more surprising. First of all, let me briefly describe my family. My parents adopted me when I was a little boy. I can barely remember the orphanage. I also have an adopted younger brother and sister. A long time ago, father was injured and lost his ability to walk. He spent the last 20 years of his life in a wheelchair. His favorite thing to do is watch TV and blame everybody else for his unhappiness. Meanwhile, my mother was committed to making money and spent most of her time at work. They received monthly subsidies for their 3 adopted children, but I never saw any of that money. I didn't feel like I was at home. On the eve of my graduation from school, I asked a question about college. Unfortunately, my grades were too low to apply for college benefits for adoptees. My mother made a big deal out of the whole thing and refused to finance my education. She laughed at me and said that the only thing that worked out well for me were my good looks. Suddenly, my father intervened in our conversation and told us that we should blame the politicians. Very helpful. Thanks, Dad. Later that night, I made a resolution to become independent and move out from the hell I lived in. After school, I began to work at a car wash. Every day, I washed the expensive cars of dozens of clients and asked myself why I wasn't one of them. Some clients treated me like trash. Others gave me good tips. My boss Mitch trusted me and often left me alone on the night shift. And then I had a very special night shift. I met Camila, a beautiful young lady in her 20s with long legs and a perfect golden tan. I had a crush on her at first sight. She cheekily parked in front of me and said that her car, needed to take a bath immediately. Her silver Mini Cooper looked pretty tidy, but I washed the car, and when the work was done, Camila asked me to hang out with her for a while because she felt very lonely. I noticed that she declined several calls from someone called His Majesty while we were talking. I joked that we could go shoot cans with a slingshot, and to my surprise, she suddenly agreed. So, over the next hour, I taught the most elegant lady I'd ever met how to work a slingshot. Then we made a bet. If I knocked down all 4 cans with my first shot, she would do anything I asked. So I did, and asked her to kiss me. You probably already guessed what happened next. It was the best moment of my life. But unfortunately, she had to go. I didn't even have time to ask for her number. After that magic night, I was dreaming and hoping to see her again. Exactly 1 week later, she reappeared during my night shift. Her car was clean, but she insisted. That night, Camila gave me her number. I offered her a coffee from our coffee machine, but she refused and told me that one day I should try going to a place with real coffee. We began to meet at the car wash on a regular basis, but she would only spend a couple of hours with me and then run away. Sometimes His Majesty called her, but she didn't want to tell me about him. I was so desperately in love with her that I closed my eyes to everything and just enjoyed the moment. One night, I asked her to meet me during the daytime, but she laughed and said that I couldn't afford that. Which was true. My monthly salary could barely cover her average restaurant check. As we were cuddling on the couch, Camila explained to me that my strategy was wrong. If you want to achieve anything in your life, you need to get rid of your family, your boss, and the other losers around you and begin hanging out with successful people. That was her advice. I told her that I loved her regardless. Camila grabbed her purse, left me a huge tip, and said that we should stop seeing each other for a while. I panicked, and then tried to give her her money back and persuade her to stay with me. I screamed that I loved her, but Camila just drove away. Later that night, I felt horrible, but I had to get through my night shift. We had a rack with lottery tickets at the checkout counter. I grabbed one random ticket and purchased it. Because why not? I had nothing to lose anyway. After a few hours, I checked the ticket and learned that I had won a $1 million jackpot. My first reaction was complete shock. In the morning, Mitch yelled at me. I was so overwhelmed that I'd forgotten to clean up the place. When I got back home in the morning, I put the ticket under my bed and fell asleep. I woke up to my father screaming at me. He made me get up and go mow the lawn. While I was mowing the lawn, my mother returned from work. I wanted to tell her the good news, but she said, "I'm not in the mood," and just went into the house. So I decided to keep it a secret for a while. The next day, I went to the lottery office and claimed my prize. They promised to keep my name a secret. After a week, I received the money in my bank account. I quit my job and began to look for an apartment to rent. I hired a realtor, and we had a very entertaining tour checking out apartments of my dreams. I liked the apartment in one condominium so much that I decided to buy it right away. It only cost $238,000. I could easily afford that. When I packed my bags, I lied to my parents and said that I was going to rent an apartment with my colleagues. After moving into my new apartment, I went shopping and bought everything that I needed, from new clothes to expensive, exclusive gadgets. And best of all, I didn't tell anyone. Soon after moving, I received a text message from Camilla. She was looking for me at the car wash, but Mitch told her that I had quit. I invited her over to my nice new home for a fancy dinner with a personal chef. I got this idea from some TV show. Camila was shocked. "Did you rob a bank?" she asked. But I told her the truth. She didn't believe me, so I showed her my new iPad with my account details. Camila suggested that I meet her financial consultant because he could give me good advice on how to invest my money, and there were so many scammers around. The following week, Camila and I met with Walter, an elegant gentleman in a perfect suit. He promised to triple my $300,000 in 6 months. He talked a lot about interest rates, futures, and options, and other strange, unfamiliar words. But Camila trusted him, and I trusted Camila, so we signed a deal. Later, we went to a jewelry shop, and I bought Camila diamond earrings to thank her. Camila became my consultant in the field of luxury lifestyle. I took her to the best restaurants. She selected clothes and accessories for me and her. I even took Camila on vacation to Brazil. One day, we were cuddling on a beautiful beach, and His Majesty called again. Camila moved away from me to talk to him. When she returned, I asked for an explanation. It turned out that Camila was dating a rich, married guy, but he didn't treat her very well, so she left him. But he kept calling her from time to time. I told her to forget about him and become my official girlfriend. Camila smiled and said yes. After I'd left the USA for the first time, I realized that I missed my brother and sister a lot. So I invited them over to my place after arriving back from Brazil. My brother Jim was 13 at the moment, and Rosie was only 9. When they saw my apartment, they kept asking me questions about money, but I lied and said that I'd just found a better job. I gave them some pocket money as a gift and asked them not to tell my parents. But on the next day, my mother called me and began yelling at me because I hadn't visited them for so long. I didn't want to go over there, but my conscience was torturing me. Camila refused to go with me for some reason. I realized that Rosie had blabbed. My parents had already become convinced that I had turned into a rich and generous gangster, and they invited over several of our poor relatives. They offered me tea and began to try to extort money from me. At first, Mom showed me a bunch of Dad's medical bills. Then she took me to the attic. The roof needed to be repaired. It was unsafe to live like that. She also asked Rosie and Jim to do a fashion show in their old, shabby clothes and their boots that had holes in them. And then, my mother said that it would be nice of me to show my gratefulness and be responsible. Oh, also, my aunt needed a new refrigerator for her birthday, and Uncle Thomas had lost his job and was starving. I felt very guilty for hiding my wealth for so long, so I admitted that I had won the lottery. I apologized and promised to compensate them for my betrayal. I was sure that my investment would soon bring me more money. Yeah, exactly. Not only did Walter not triple my money in 6 months, he lost everything that I had invested. And when I tried to get my money back, he told me that I should have read the contract more carefully. As for Camila, she just disappeared when the truth surfaced. Meanwhile, His Majesty somehow got my number and gave me a call. He asked me to stay away from his wife. Wife! It turned out that Camila liked adventures, and I was just one of the many from her list of boyfriends on the side. After that call, I was walking around my condo alone. My heart was broken. But I suddenly remembered my grouchy and terribly smart school teacher, Mr. Malcolm. He taught economics and law and liked me for some reason. So I visited him at school and confessed. Mr. Malcolm studied my investment contract carefully and told me, honestly, that I was a moron. That contract was a legal way to swindle money out of me. Mr. Malcolm told me to accept that as a lesson and to go get a financial education before spending the rest of my money. He also explained that my adoptive parents had been robbing me for years because they refused to spend the money from the subsidies on me. So, from a moral point of view, I owed them nothing. After my meeting with Mr. Malcolm, I made a new resolution to stop spending my money until I get my financial diploma and to stop being so freaking naive. Today, I'm going to college, and the remaining sum is frozen on a long-term deposit account. And yeah, I try to stay away from mysterious, pretty women.